Well, first of all, what kind of mythical powers does a Sun Devil have? We got to consider that.
Now, Terrell, run the road again!
Hey guys! Hey! I'm having a press conference, okay?
Their fat little girlfriends have some obvious advantages. For one thing, their fat little girlfriends are telling them what they want to hear.
It's Division I football! It ain't intramurals!
All right, and welcome back to another episode of the Hoppy Huddle podcast. Today, we are talking Week 2 reactions, and boy, has Week 2 been absolutely crazy. It has been just the week of close calls and the week of upsets, and if there's one way that I could describe Week 2, it would be this. It's the current objective: survive. Like, if you survived this Saturday, you're happy. And if you didn't, then you are really unhappy.
Yeah, it was one of those days where you look at the schedule and you're like, okay, we got Texas, Michigan. Maybe we got a couple interesting games. Your favorite team's playing, you want to watch it. But other than that, I was like, okay, it's early September. And then, bam, we got a ton of great games. Upsets galore. We got Northern Illinois taking on, we got all kinds of stuff. And you and I were talking about it off air before this thing started. I had 3 screens up. You had 4. I felt I couldn't catch up with 3 screens. I was like, where? I need another screen. So it was crazy. It was a great day. The game that disappointed the most was the Texas Michigan game.
Yeah, the big game.
That was a snooze fest. But man, we had some great games. We got a lot to talk about today. So
all right,
we got Nacho Man 57. Listen to us. Hey man, good to see you, Nacho Man.
All right, Nacho Man in the chat. Let's go. All right. So, boy, we got a lot to run through, so we're going to try and go. First things first, I think we hit some of the big games, talk about those, then we can get into some of the upsets, and then cover the multitude of close calls that there were throughout the week. First off, I think we want to talk about the marquee matchup, or was supposed to be the best game of the weekend, Texas at Michigan. And this was kind of just over by the first quarter, in my opinion. Like, maybe you thought maybe Michigan could get it together, and they never really did. Texas dominated them on the line of scrimmage at both sides. Michigan's defense did not really look like they put up a fight. Basically, the strategy was just that there's that one corner, that NFL corner that Michigan has, and it's you just don't throw it to him, and then you're good. And Quinn Ewers made some fantastic decisions, even on wide open plays. He just kind of made stuff happen. Quinn Ewers really showed how good of a quarterback he is. And Texas just diced up Michigan and smothered them on the defensive end.
Yeah, I think I had one friend who was in a group chat who, after about 2 series, said, this is a complete mismatch. And I texted him back and said, you're right. So far, all we're seeing is Texas dominating both lines of scrimmage. It really wasn't close. And it just didn't matter what the final score was going to end up being. This was over. Michigan wasn't going to score. And go back to when, and I'm going to toot my own horn here. I said at the beginning of the year in our Big Ten pod, I didn't think Michigan was going to be that good because they were struggling. I didn't think the quarterback was going to be that good. And you know what? It's worse than I thought. Yeah, they don't. Alex Orji, which we thought was going to be the starter, there's a problem there. He's not the starter.
Yeah.
Davis Warren clearly isn't the starter. And then their offensive line isn't as good. This team isn't going to go. I never thought they were a playoff team. I thought they were going to lose 3-4 games. They may lose 5 games. They're not really that great of a team now. Now, could they get better? Maybe. But they clearly ran into a really good team, Texas. And let's talk about Texas first. That was the best we've seen Quinn Ewers, I think. I think last year we saw Quinn play really well in some big games. Early on in the season, he played well in the Washington playoff game. But this was, I thought, the best we saw him play, in that things weren't – sometimes the pocket broke down. He moved out of the pocket. He created plays. We hadn't really seen him do that real well before.
Yeah.
I thought he played a great game. Clearly, he's probably already in the top leaders for the Heisman Trophy. But this Texas team, despite losing the people they lost last year, they clearly have established themselves early on in the season as one of the favorites this year. It's always tough to go to the big house and win. To go face the defending champion with a team with a lot of defensive returning talent and do what they did, hats off to Texas.
Absolutely. I agree. I think if you're Michigan at this point, Davis Warren clearly is not it. I think they just like him because he's kind of a Cade McNamara, where he's kind of a nothing QB, but he can know the playbook and run the scheme. I think if at this point you just commit to Alex Orji and you just run the spread option, there's no way, because you can't. They don't have the receivers to go up and get 50-50 balls, and you don't have the quarterback accurate enough to put it into tight windows for those non-talented receivers to get.
Well, wasn't that the plan going into the season?
That was the plan going into the season, but apparently they didn't commit. Orji can't throw. Apparently he can't throw the ball at all, or maybe he can't run the option that they want him to. So I don't know what Michigan's going to do, but they have a quarterback problem, and they're in trouble.
Yeah, it's a real problem, and I don't know what's going to happen there. That schedule the schedule does not get easier. I mean, they're going to go to let's see, my iPad's acting up here, but they've got USC in 2 weeks, and that USC team looks a lot better. And they got athletes on that USC team, especially
that USC team is going to destroy Michigan's secondary.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they got, and then you're going to play again at Washington. Okay, maybe. At Illinois, let me tell you what, if you're watching that Kansas Illinois team, that Illinois team's going to smack
Luke
Michigan
Altmaier, man.
Yeah. They go to Oregon. I don't know about Indiana, Ohio State. I mean, there's losses on that schedule now for Michigan.
Yeah, and let's give some credit to Texas's defense as well. They kind of Michigan was supposed to, Sherrone Moore's supposed to be the offensive line guru, and they got whipped at the line of scrimmage. Michigan had 3 turnovers. Texas looks like a complete team, and it's really Texas has inserted themselves into the discussion for number 2 in that poll, and I really think there's 3 teams and a large gap. It's Georgia, Texas, Ohio State, in whatever order you want. Probably Georgia 1, and then Texas or Ohio State at 2, and then a giant gap. And Texas is a real title contender.
Yeah, I got 2 teams that are closing in on that gap.
What are those?
Well, as much as painful as I think, everyone's not talking about Ole Miss. I mean, they've just gone out and
played nobody.
They played nobody. They've handled their business really well.
I mean, that's true. So,
they haven't played with their food like Penn State and Oregon.
That's true, which is why I don't have Penn State and Oregon in that tier.
And Alabama, and I throw Alabama in there. I mean, they've done what when you're in that top 10, that top 5, and you're not playing teams that are equivalent talent, you just need to handle your business, and they've done that. The other team, don't tell me Tennessee doesn't look good.
Tennessee looks good. I think, okay.
I don't need to jump ahead here.
No, that's good. I was kind of getting ready, so that's a good transition. Let's talk about another ranked matchup of the day. I think the only other ranked matchup was Tennessee and Tennessee and NC State. And I moved this to screen 4 after about 5 minutes.
It was
a little more than I'm
away.
exaggerating with 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But by the end of the second quarter, it was pretty clear. NC State actually hung in there throughout the first quarter, and they just kind of it's one of those things where you have to capitalize on all your opportunities to beat a more talented team like Tennessee. And NC State had opportunities, and they didn't take advantage of them. And
early.
You really have to hit all your snaps if you want to do that, and they didn't. And then once Tennessee got ahead, it was just pedal to the metal, and then obviously, Nico Iamaleava is fantastic. Tennessee ran the ball really well, too. That's, one thing you forget about these veer and shoot teams is the run game is actually a really important part of that to counterbalance. So a lot of the counter plays to kind of go against they expect you to pass. So,
yeah, and, that game, it was still close. The NC State was driving deep. If they score that touchdown, maybe it could be a little different game. Grayson threw that terrible pick 6. Game was over.
Horrible. Yeah.
It was terrible. Yeah. But I don't think, Nico had a good game. It was a good game, but it wasn't a great game. I think that game was won by Tennessee's defense, how good they look.
Yeah, that really surprised me.
Yeah. I think that's where their strength is. And, they obviously have some NFL players on that side of the ball. And then Tennessee running the ball was out. I mean, to me, that's a team. I'm telling you, I said again, I'll go back to the beginning of the season. My prediction was that team's a playoff team, and they're getting momentum. They're going to beat the tar out of Florida in a few weeks. They're going to be undefeated when they go play when Bama comes to town. And then they beat Bama. They're going to be up there. They're going to, now they go to Oklahoma, I believe, in a week, 2 weeks, I think, sometime here.
That'll
very
be
soon.
really interesting matchup, for sure.
Yeah, and if they go to play if they beat Oklahoma, then they've got a pretty decent path to going against that third Saturday in October. And I mean, to me right now, they're going to be one of those teams that I think they're going to build. And anyway, but yeah, NC State. Robert and I'm going, what's going on with that offense? I mean, Grayson McCall should be better than this. We said the same thing last year. I mean, the defense will be fine. I think they're going to play lesser competition. I still think this is going to be a decent NC State team. They're just outmatched against Tennessee last night.
I think NC State is the same team they've been for the last 10 years, an 8 or 9 win in the ACC team. And I don't think Concepcion is a good receiver, but I actually think Grayson McCall is not that good a quarterback. I think he was just fantastic with Jamie Chadwell, who is, in my opinion, an offensive, top-level offensive play caller. And it's really seeming like McCall is not all that. But
well, again, Texas and Tennessee were my big winners from yesterday. I think those two teams
absolutely
really impressive. To me, they face decent competition and earned the right to move up in the polls. Whereas you've got some of these other teams in the top 10 who either lost or did not look so great, honestly.
Yeah. All right. So the other big game was not a ranked matchup, but I feel like we should hit it anyway, and that was Colorado at Nebraska. I would just like to say I was right. Okay, going into the season, I told y'all Colorado was a bunch of frauds. I told you they weren't any good. They have no offensive line, have no defensive line. They have no secondary. They have no running back. They have Shiloh Sanders. They have Shador Sanders. They have Travis Hunter and that other wide receiver, and that's their whole team.
Yeah. Do they know what the running game is? I think they really don't even try to run the ball.
I think they can't. They just have no offensive line.
And maybe that's it. And it was obvious last night. Nebraska didn't even try. I mean, they were just going to cover the pass and let Colorado. And you saw what happens. Now Nebraska took their foot off the pedal in the second half. And of course, I think the rest of the country stopped watching at halftime too. But first half, that was all Nebraska. It was ugly. It was just not even. They couldn't do anything. I think. I don't know. Yeah, you're right. I thought Colorado would be a little better in this, but they've obviously not upgraded at any of those. I mean, they just think that Shador and Travis are going to carry them throughout the season. They're going to catch a few teams, but man, teams in the Big 12 are going to figure this thing out. They're not going to outscore these teams in the Big 12 like that.
Yeah, and you know who's really good at defending teams that only pass? Everybody in the Big 12 who's played it for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Okay. This air raid style that they run maybe it catches some other team. Not in the Big 12. Everybody knows how to defend it in the Big 12. And you essentially dare them to run the ball. They can't. So Nebraska literally rushed 3 or 4 every time and was getting consistent pressure. They had 5 or 6 sacks. It was a beatdown. And can I say this? Dylan Raiola is the truth. He didn't always make great throws, but some of the throws he made, there's maybe 5 or 6 players in the world that can make that throw.
He looks pretty good. He's not turning the ball over, which is half the battle in Nebraska. Not turning it over, making plays. There's a scenario where they could be 6-7-0 to start this season.
Yeah, I'm so unbelievably high on Dylan Raiola. I genuinely he's as a true freshman. Most true freshmen should not start in college. The last one that was any good was Trevor Lawrence, and I think Raiola is that good or better. Yeah. And it would not surprise me if he ends up winning a Heisman before he gets out of college and ends up as a top 5 draft pick. He's that good, and he's the kind of player that can transform Nebraska and really bring them. Like he could bring them back with like transfer wide receivers that want to come play for him. Like he's that good. And it would not surprise me if Nebraska's able to pull an upset this year over one of the teams they face that's more talented than them, just because Raiola just wills them to it. So
Now, the back end of their schedule, they've got Ohio State, they've got USC, and they've got Iowa. But the rest of their games are manageable. I mean,
I think they could, I could see them upsetting Iowa or USC maybe, in a wild scenario. Don't think they're beating Ohio State, but
No. Well, that's a whole different map. But I feel good about you feel really good about Nebraska and that the direction they're going to. I think their defense looks good and solid. Matt Rule has done what he did at Baylor. He's building a program. If I'm a Nebraska fan, I feel good about the future, and you got to feel good that Dylan's going to be there. He doesn't appear to be probably one of those guys, even though he hopped 4 different high schools. And he flipped like twice in his commitment. You hope that he's going to be there for 3 years, and so if you're Matt Rule, boy, that's going to be exciting. 3 years in Nebraska football, hopefully.
Yeah, he is just fun to watch play. All right, so I think now we should talk about the teams that did not survive this Saturday, all of the upsets, because if basically all of college football this week was current objective survive, and some teams did not survive. Those include Auburn, Iowa, Georgia Tech, Notre Dame, and Kansas, all ranked teams that lost this Saturday. And I think we got to start with the craziest, most unexpected one. Northern Illinois beating Notre Dame at home. What? Marcus Freeman, what happened?
Okay, Marcus Freeman, you've now entered danger territory. That's crazy. It was just nuts. And again, this is one of those games where it didn't start out on one of my screens, but it certainly got there in the second half quickly. Tell me your thoughts on the game.
So I'm the same way. I did not watch much of the first half because there were so many other teams that were struggling at the same time. And I was like, all right, it's the first half. Notre Dame plays slow sometimes. They'll get it together, though. But the farther the game went on and the farther they didn't get it together, I slowly started moving it. And essentially, Riley Leonard was terrible. They couldn't move the ball. Like, he threw 2 interceptions. He was They kept trying to drop it back, give him the traditional drop back pass, because I guess they didn't want to run him because they figured they could rest, is my thought. But that he was not good as a drop back passer. They couldn't move the ball on offense. And Northern, it was, low scoring was at 16-14, right? So, Northern Illinois didn't have to score that many points. They missed 2 field goals, I think, right? And it just mistakes, turnovers, missed field goals, and then that just cost them the game. They played with their food too long. They couldn't move the ball on offense, and they lost. And Northern Illinois, to their credit, they took advantage of what I was talking about with NC State and Tennessee. They took advantage of all their opportunities to capitalize against a more talented team, and they ended up winning the game.
Again, all credit to Northern Illinois. Did you see that interview of the coach afterwards?
That's awesome. I love that. Dude, I love stuff like that.
I do too. That was great. Outgained. You had 100 more yards than Notre Dame. Notre Dame turned the ball over twice. You won. You had 10 minutes more time possession. And that's on the road. Come on, Notre Dame. I mean, you're supposed to be taken seriously as a title contender. Maybe we thought too much of that. Maybe, what does it say about Texas A&M?
Maybe A&M's not that good.
But last week we're talking about Notre Dame. Hey, they just secured themselves a playoff bid because they can go 11-1 now, 10-2, and they're good. I'm telling you what, they're out of the playoff now. I don't care. You cannot lose to Northern Illinois at home and make the playoff. I don't care what.
I agree with you in a perfect world. But I agree with you, but not because they can't get in with a loss to Northern Illinois. I agree with you because the team that loses to Northern Illinois is not winning out the rest of the way.
Well, that's true. They're going to Louisville.
I think if they won out the rest of the way convincingly every game, I think they would probably get in because they're Notre Dame. But that's not going to happen because the team
go
that
11-1, they might get in. But at 10-2, if they lose one more game,
there's
done. No way.
But I think there's no way they don't lose another game to either Louisville or USC because.
Now, I agree. Yeah. I completely agree, Jay. Because you got USC, you got Louisville, you got Georgia Tech.
You play like that, you're dead.
Florida State. I mean, I'd like to see them play Florida State at this point.
Yeah.
So the bigger question coming out of this game, in my mind, is listen, this is a pattern now with Marcus Freeman. I don't care how good you recruit.
Yeah.
You can't lose to these games. And, you know, I don't think Marcus Freeman's on the hot seat, but my goodness, you know, you can't lose. These are the games you lose. You can lose a game to USC. You can lose to Louisville. You can lose to Florida State.
You could have lost to A&M. If you flip these results, I think Marquee's in a better position.
Nobody's complaining. Not a
Everyone's
single
like,
person.
oh, Kyle Fields hard. You know, A&M's talented. It's a tough game. First game of the season. If you flip these results, everyone's like, oh, you know, it's tough, but Notre Dame's still in the play. This is horrible.
Yeah, and it's not the first time. This isn't the first time with him.
It's not.
And
Everybody
talks about how great he is. He may be a great recruiter, but I'm starting to wonder if how long these people in South Bend are going to put up with this. He may not be gone this year, but you know he's got to start producing something very soon, or this could be this could have been the one that broke the bank. I don't know, but I'm concerned.
Okay, I agree with you there. Let's go to the Cy-Hawk game. I watched. This was kind of just a slug of a game, which, you know, pretty typical for
I bet
these
the over.
teams.
Boy, was I happy on that one.
Yeah. What was the line?
It was 34.
Oh, yeah.
35.
So you were good. Yeah.
I mean, I made it, but the funny thing was that the unders hit 17 out of the last 19.
Yeah. No, I guess the line adjusted, the books adjusted then.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I mean, Iowa State, they outgained him 361 total yards to 303. Iowa had 2 turnovers. Iowa State. I don't know. It was kind of just a game. Like Rocco Beck made some good plays. Cade McNamara is not good, right? He's just not. Like,
and Iowa was in control of this game. They had this game.
Yeah, Iowa blew it.
And Iowa blew it. And because you can't generate offense, they let Iowa State keep around. And Iowa State scored what? 20 points. All 20 points from the second half.
Yeah.
This was a 13-0 game at halftime. I was sweating the over at halftime. And then, sure enough, hats off to Rocco Beck. Hats off to Iowa State for rallying there. I think, we talked about the Big 12. There's a lot of good teams that are all going to be able to mix. I think this is an Iowa State team. That gives us some confidence. I think they're going to be in the mix all year because I like their quarterback. But I think the Cade Mack, you got to move on from Cade Mack. He was 13.
They have a better option though. Like,
well, the other guy, is it Springer? Is that his name?
Yeah, I think. Yeah.
I think Springer. I can't remember. He wasn't in this game, but I mean, we've seen Cade McNamara. We've seen him enough now.
Yeah.
You got to try somebody else.
Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah, Iowa gets still a good defense, but you got to play better, and you can't let that happen in a rivalry.
Yeah. Plus, Iowa has pretty much owned this rivalry for a long time, so
they have. They absolutely have.
Very interesting. Let's go to.
Man, there was a lot of good stuff.
There's so many good. Let's go to, in my opinion, it was one of the better games of the entire day. And if you're kind of a casual college football fan, you may have not even tuned in because it's not the hugest brand names. But Syracuse, Georgia Tech was such a fun game. I had a blast watching this game. This was on my main screen for most of it because it was just after.
It was in the noon window when Texas had gotten out of control.
I flipped from Texas to this game. It was so much fun. Let me tell you, Haynes King and Kyle McCord. How did Georgia Tech and Syracuse end up with these two quarterbacks? It is beyond me because there's so many good teams in the country that have way worse quarterbacks than these two that you would think. But credit to the coaching staff of both teams. Fran Brown and Syracuse ended up with the win, upsetting Georgia Tech. And it might be time to talk about Syracuse being a good football program. Like,
yeah. Well,
is it possible?
Kyle McCord.
Yeah, isn't it like related to like half the staff?
No, like Fran Brown's. Like there's some connection between Fran Brown and Kyle McCord's mom or something.
Yeah.
Like where the connection, there's a real personal connection there. If like they work together or something. So yeah,
I think they're both from New Jersey or something.
What's that?
I think they're both from New Jersey.
Yeah, but there was some like family connection of like somebody worked with some. So that's why
I'm not sure.
It wasn't just a recruiting connection.
Okay.
Kyle McCord was 32 of 46 for 381 and 4 touchdowns. I mean, Georgia Tech didn't have an answer. this is what Florida State, if they had a quarterback, could have done against Georgia Tech.
Yeah, I mean,
So a couple of things. First of all, Arondé Gatson II at Syracuse is a great player. Now, I'm old enough to remember his father, Arondé Gatson, when he played for the Dolphins. His son is a pretty daggone good player at Syracuse and will be playing in the NFL. And you remember when he got hurt last year is when Syracuse struggled. But let's go back to Kyle McCord for a second. I mean, he took all the blame last year for losing to Michigan, got out of town. I guess that coaching staff didn't want him. I don't know that. I mean, Kyle's not a bad quarterback.
He seems like he's pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, so you got to wonder if Ohio State had just given him all the tools they have this year, maybe he'd be okay. Is
and
he
a different
Will
coordinator.
Howard? I mean,
he's looking. I mean, Will Howard's been fine, but Kyle McCord has been playing really well. And let me tell you, I love watching that offense. They run all kinds of crazy formations.
Yeah.
Like they had one like old Chip Kelly Oregon style play where they like put all the linemen out wide and had like 3 linemen and did a run up the middle. And they brought in a fullback and like ran like this wing tee crap. Like I was just having a blast watching their offense. And
yeah, I think this game, when we look back, like right now, yesterday, everyone's like, oh, Georgia Tech lost to Syracuse. I think we look at the end of the year, these are going to look like
9 wins. 10.
Yeah, these are going to be, hey, this was a good loss by Georgia Tech. I mean, on the road to a team that I think will have a decent record. So, Georgia Tech's not going to, we never thought Georgia Tech was going to go undefeated. They played better at the end of the game. It was a fun game.
Yeah.
Tough loss, but time to move on. So,
no, I agree. And I think Kyle McCord is vastly better than he showed last year, and he's played really well so far this season. And I mean, it would not surprise me if Syracuse, I think they have the potential to try and make the ACC championship game if they can pull some upsets. Like they would have to beat some people, but they're definitely not at the bottom of the ACC. I think they're probably around Louisville level in how good they are, in my opinion.
I don't know if they're Louisville. Louisville's pretty good. So,
well, we'll see. I really liked what I saw from Kyle McCord.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right.
Where do you want to go next?
Well, let's go to Nacho Man 57. I think I'm pretty sure I know who Nacho Man 57 is, and that means we've got to talk about his Auburn Tigers.
Poor Auburn.
Yes.
Poor Auburn. So this is a Hugh Freeze game. This is what happens with Hugh Freeze. It happened at Ole Miss.
Nacho Man, you're welcome to chime in on the chat if you've got any thoughts.
Yeah, this happened when he was at Ole Miss. It happened last year with New Mexico State. Auburn just showed up and laid an egg. I don't know what they were doing. Peyton Thorne is not good. I don't know why they didn't try and pursue anybody in the portal, because Peyton Thorne is just terrible. I mean, we know what he is. We know Peyton Thorne, and he's not good. And Auburn I think Cal outcoached them, in my opinion. They just kind of had to answer to everything that Auburn tried, offensively and defensively. And shout out to Justin Wilcox, because he came prepared. They came in and they beat Auburn. They just beat them. Like it wasn't. Cal was they had 330 yards of offense, 0 turnovers. Auburn had 5 turnovers. Crazy.
Yeah. I mean, you can't turn the ball over 5 times and expect to win a game, and only throw the ball and have. I mean, it was a disaster of a game. I've got a theory on why they didn't get anything in the portal, and I think I even said this on one of the previous shows. I think they've got a theory because they knew this just wasn't their year.
Oh, you think?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't know. I think that they weren't going to go 10-2 this year. There was enough talent. I still think there's some. I watched that game defensively yesterday, and I don't think there's enough talent defensively yet to really compete with
especially
Georgia.
in the front seven. Like, they really need to upgrade their front seven. It is not.
It's coming. It's coming based on recruiting. It is coming.
Yeah, but it's not the Auburn dudes that we're used to seeing on the front seven. It's not right now.
So you cannot tell me that they saw Peyton Thorne last year and said, "Hey, we want to go with him another year because we can win." I don't believe that. So if you take that, then you got to believe they said, "Okay, we're going to take our lumps another year because we don't want to go waste time in the portal to get somebody else that's probably marginally better, just another Jack."
Okay.
And maybe we can get by with just enough and really focus our efforts on 25 and 26. I don't know. That's my theory.
Okay.
I don't know. How else do you explain it? How else do you explain?
Well, I explain it because
Peyton Thorne back.
this is just a pattern with Hugh Freeze. Like at Ole Miss, he would beat Alabama and the next week lose to, Vanderbilt, Mississippi State. Like this.
Yeah, but this is a more fundamental issue. I mean, you can't, if you thought this team was ready to compete with Tennessee, with Ole Miss, with Bama, with Georgia, you cannot tell me you thought Peyton Thorne was the quarterback to lead you. You can't.
Yeah,
Nobody.
You're right. You're right.
So either that tells me you didn't think this team was good enough. You had a lot of freshmen. You got recruiting going, and you're like, you know what? We're not ready yet. So why should I go out and burn capital on that? I don't know. I just don't. I don't know any other answers. I don't know enough. I'm not that smart. So I just don't believe you can look at it. People are a lot smarter than me. Maybe have an answer. I don't know.
And I mean, credit to Cal. They played really well here.
Wait. We got
got
an update.
some in the
Nacho
chat.
Man. Since Deuce Knight was visiting Auburn this weekend, how do you think the horrible performance impacts their ability to flip Deuce Knight Notre Dame? How does Notre Dame's loss factor in? I think Deuce Knight has already gotten a crystal ball from 24/7, hasn't he, for Auburn?
Yeah, I haven't been following him specifically, but I will say I think Notre Dame's loss has a larger impact than Auburn's loss because Auburn wasn't expected to be a national title contender this year, and Auburn was against a Power 4 team, Cal, with an established track record. Cal does nip people every couple of years. Like this is not the first time Cal has pulled some crazy upset. So I think the Notre Dame loss has a bigger impact on that than
also
the Auburn loss.
And also, Deuce is the type of quarterback that will fit well in Hugh Freeze's system. We've yet to see any quarterback fit well in a Marcus Freeman system. I mean, Sam Hartman. What did Sam Hartman do? He looked great at Wake Forest, came to Notre Dame and was okay. Now we're seeing Riley Leonard can't throw a lick. I mean, what has Marcus Freeman done offensively at Notre Dame?
Well, he's a defensive guy, so
I understand, but it's his.
Well, he brought in a new OC this year, didn't he?
Yeah, again.
Yeah, well,
he brought in what's his name, Denbrock from LSU.
Denbrock, yeah. So I don't know. Notre Dame's got they got CJ Carr, so I think they'll be fine next year.
I think I think Deuce Knight is if he hasn't flipped yet, he will flip to Auburn, and plus I think he sees Auburn and goes, hey, that's a place I can come in and start right away, kind of like a Rayola, kind of like maybe a Lagway can do in Florida.
I don't think Deuce Knight's at Rayola or Lagway level talent wise.
You don't think so?
He's good, and he could definitely develop to get there, but Rayola and Lagway, I think, are special. Like most 5-stars can't start freshman year, and I think Rayola and Lagway are like. It's weird they're in the same class. It's a lot like Fields and Lawrence when they were in the same class and they came in, and those two were just a giant jump. But maybe he's probably better than Peyton Thorne. So I mean,
yeah, well, a lot of players better than Peyton Thorne. So
yeah.
So I think, thank you, Nacho Man. I think Deuce Knight. I don't think it affects Deuce Knight. So that's where I would go. So
yeah, again, commitments don't usually hinge on one victory. It's a lot more about relationships in the program and the plan, and
I mean Deuce
and the NIL, to be fair, and NIL. But Auburn's got plenty of that. So
I mean, Deuce is 206. He's nationally number 34.
Yeah, he's good.
I mean, that's enough to come in and start.
Yeah. But you never know with these because over 50% of 5-stars end up being just trash and can't play. So
well, that's true.
But you just kind of a crapshoot. You just never know. I mean, look at Brock Vandergriff. He was a highly rated 5-star. He's now at Kentucky, and he just is not a good quarterback. So
yeah, anyone is better than Thorne, says Nacho Man 57. We would agree with you, and I think so would most of the 90,000 that was at Jordan Hare on Saturday.
Yeah. All right. I think we got to run. We should hit Kansas, Illinois real quick. So I didn't get a ton of eyes on this game because there was a lot else going on at 7.
I was able to watch some of the fourth at least.
Okay. What did you think?
I thought Illinois plays great defense. They were able to shut down Daniels for the most part. I think Kansas is missing having that offensive coordinator run the show for them, and I think that's hurting them. And I think I would not want to take. I don't want to take. If I was anybody in the, they look improved over last year. I thought last year was a step down. I was actually worried about hot seat talk for Brett Bielema this year. I was a little concerned that if they take, but this was a nice win. They really, I think Kansas is a decent team with a good quarterback, and I thought they played pretty well.
I tend to agree. I didn't catch a ton of it, but what I did see, I'm not convinced Jalen Daniels is a real elite drop back passer.
He threw 3 picks. That helped a lot. I mean,
it's just like he seems good when he's like scrambling and play creating and kind of breaks down. He can kind of read the situation. But like it just seems like he's not really built to just drop back, sit in the pocket, and then make those kind of passes.
But can he throw for 150 and run for 100? Or run for 50 or 60? I mean, and again, I think the big difference here is probably just the fact that new offensive coordinator, and they're not the same team they were last year.
What was that guy's name? I can't remember. He's now at Penn State.
Penn State, the guy Konowicki or whatever his name is.
Yeah, Konowicki. Yeah. Anyway, he was really
definitely not a spelling program.
Yeah. All right. So we want to talk about some of the scares that we've had this weekend. The teams that did survive the weekend, they barely skated through by the skin of their teeth. We've got a bunch to hit. So
I'm just going to start.
I think we should start with Bama USF because the final score is misleading. Do not believe that final score of 42-16. It was not like that. It was 14-13 at the end of the third quarter.
And they got a terrible, absolutely horrible.
There were a couple really
call.
Questionable calls. By the way, that's kind of a theme I noticed across the board is that home teams that were struggling against other teams seem to be getting a lot of questionable calls, and I don't know. It just kind of bugged.
It was 14-13. South Florida had stopped them. I can't remember if that was after the turnover, right at the goal line, after the fumbled snap. South Florida was backed up. They got a huge run to gain, I think, 30, 40 yards. All of a sudden, momentum's with them, and sure enough, that yellow flag comes out. I mean, I think that was the sequence. And then, they couldn't hit a punt. Bama gets the ball back. Next thing you know, they're hitting Ryan Williams for a touchdown, and then things are falling apart. The next thing you know, Bama goes crazy for 28 in the fourth quarter, and it's over. But USF, hats off to them again, second year in a row challenging Bama. I mean, I'll tell you what, I said this before to you. I mean, if I'm a program now, Alex Golish, the coach of USF, he better be on someone's short list for coaching at one of the group of Power 5, Power 4 schools. That guy has taken Alabama twice close the last 2 years with clearly inferior talent.
Yeah. I agree. I think USF played fantastic defense. I think Alabama has a Jalen Milroe problem. Yeah. I think he just had my bold hot take is that Milroe hasn't changed, which is not that bold of a take, but he's the same quarterback. We know what he is. He can run. He can hit some of the side to side like screen pass style stuff that's short, and he can hit the long bomb over the top. But he really can't hit like accurate stuff in the center of the field or some of the stuff that you really need precision on. And so he's really kind of just running and long bombs and screens. And can you win most games with that? Yes. Can you beat the big teams, the good teams with that? I don't know. Like the teams that can really cover the long bomb and that can spy on him. I don't know. I just think Bama with a better quarterback is an entirely different team.
Yeah. I tell you what, Bama doesn't have a problem, and that's at wide receiver. If you don't know the name Ryan Williams,
Ryan Williams is so good.
He is 17 years old. He is insane. If you don't know him and Jeremiah Smith, we're going to see a lot of those two the next 3 years because they can't play in the NFL. I mean, Bama better not waste that kid because that guy is special. Yeah. They need to find ways to get him the ball. And if Jalen's not it, they need to have a better quarterback. That guy scares me.
Yeah, no, he is really good. And I don't know. I think it kind of surprised me Bama wasn't just able to impose their will with their offensive line.
Because it's not as good.
Was Proctor injured? I can't remember.
Proctor was injured before. What was the game the previous week? Who they play? He was in a sling on the sidelines, his shoulder.
That's Cade Proctor, offensive tackle.
Yeah. he is so. I don't know that he's 100% healthy, and I'm
Yeah,
not even
that
sure he
kinda-
played. I can't remember if he played or not.
Yeah, so I don't. Bama, they should have whooped him at the line of scrimmage, and they really didn't. And that
Bama goes
I
to
don't know.
Wisconsin this week. I don't think it's a great Wisconsin team. So I don't know
Wisconsin's
that it's
not good.
I don't know that they can't beat Wisconsin. I don't know if Wisconsin's a step up from USF.
Yeah,
But now then we're gonna start to get in. I mean, Wisconsin beat South Dakota yesterday. Whoopie, not South Dakota State, South Dakota.
Yeah.
But Bama's got a tough schedule. They're gonna come run across some teams that are much better, and I'm a little concerned. I don't think they're not gonna be 12-0.
I agree. All right, I want to touch on Oklahoma Houston because this really shocked me. I'm gonna be honest. I was high on Oklahoma. I liked them a lot. I think Oklahoma's Venables' defense actually played pretty well.
was the
Holding them to
offense was the
14
problem.
points. The defense is pretty good. The problem was the offense, and there's a couple of moments, and you look at the quarterback Jackson Arnold. He's a very highly rated recruit. There was a couple moments when you saw like what Jackson Arnold could be, where he made an incredible throw, and you're like, wow, how is this guy not tearing up? And then there was the rest of the game where he was kind of running for his life. He looked out of his element. They could not like protect him as well as they really needed to. They should have destroyed Houston, and I don't know. It's hard to pinpoint any one thing on offense. It's just that they didn't execute well. They couldn't put together sustained drives. I don't know.
It seems like after the first 2 weeks, some of these teams we've had hit or miss. Some of these teams haven't been consistent. This was another inconsistent performance from Oklahoma.
Yeah.
We saw that with Oregon. We've seen that with Penn State. We've seen it with Bama. So, we don't know yet what some of these teams are going to be after 4, 5, 6 weeks. Maybe some of these teams are going to be better. These are just...
Maybe Oklahoma puts it together.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just don't know yet. I watched some of this game on one of my screens. Kind of thought the same thing as you did. Don't know what to expect. Same with, we go to LSU. They were fighting with Nicholls State. I'm not even sure I know where Nicholls State is. It's certainly not the 51st state. They were in a dogfight at one point, and then they pulled away.
They got it together, though.
They got
More
it
than
together.
Oklahoma, though.
So same with Penn State. Penn State, I mean, look terrible, especially offensively. There were times, although your old high school classmate Tyler Warren had a killer day at tight end. That boy's I tell you what, he's trading himself an NFL draft stock is what he's doing.
Yeah.
He looked good out there. But, so you look at some of these teams and you just wonder, are they just not getting up for some of the competition? Is it, they're college kids. They're 18, 19, 20. Maybe it's hard to get up every week when you're not playing the top teams. I think the best teams, the ones that are clearly dominating, are the ones showing you early on who the best ones are, and that's Georgia, Ohio State. Those two had no problems taking care of business yesterday.
Yeah. I would say, I want to talk to Oklahoma. Deion Burks is really good. He's their kind of slot receiver who's just absolutely jacked, and he can squat 400 and it's crazy. He's really good.
But he got hurt, didn't he? Then he came back in.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will also say, so the two Big 12 teams that were supposed to challenge Utah, Oklahoma State, and Kansas State, they both struggled in the game, and Kansas State probably should have lost to Tulane, if we're being honest here.
Yeah, bad call.
And Oklahoma State, bad call. And Oklahoma State got outgained by Arkansas by 100 yards.
No, it was 300.
300?
It was
I thought
300. Yes, it was 300 yards. Go look at the stats. It was 300 yards.
300 yards difference?
Total in the game, yes.
Oh, yeah, what the heck? I didn't even realize that. I was just going by what I saw. Yeah, so Oklahoma State probably also should have lost this game. Arkansas had 3 turnovers, and they ended up winning in double overtime. But Ollie Gordon didn't. He looked just okay. He really had to be saved by Alan Bowman, which you do not want to be in a situation where you're depending on Alan Bowman to win you the game.
Yeah, this is the game Sam Pittman's going to look back on when he gets fired this year and goes, man, I should have had that one. That might have saved me a little.
Yeah. We kind of all. It's like a train going towards a cliff. Everyone, Pittman's gone pretty much. Arizona struggled with Northern Arizona for a little while, and Ted McMillan pretty much killed his Heisman campaign right there.
Yeah.
Let's see. One of the best games the entire weekend was the late night game, Boise State at Oregon. Man, was that an exciting game. Back and forth, Boise State.
Yeah. I didn't catch that one. That's past my bet.
Yeah. Boise State's Ashton Jeanty is one of the best players in the country. He is unbelievable. You wouldn't against Oregon State's against Oregon's offensive front, Ashton Jeanty, he averaged 7.7 yards per carry, 192 yards, 25 attempts, 3 touchdowns. Averaging 7.7 yards per carry against Oregon's defensive front is a feat in and of itself.
Yeah.
He is an NFL player on Boise State, and it would not surprise me if he is in New York at the end of the season.
Yeah, that's a bold take.
I don't think he'll win the Heisman because he's a group of 5, but he might get an invite. And it also wouldn't surprise me if Boise State ends up being, I think you're probably right at the beginning of the season. I think Boise State, judging by how they played against Oregon, is going to be the group of 5 team to make playoffs.
It depends on what they do the rest of the year, but I think so. I think they.
I mean, they got to win out and win the Mountain West, but they can literally just run the ball with Jeanty every time. And who is stopping them? No one.
Yeah.
No one in the Mountain West. If Oregon line can't stop them, no one in the Mountain West is stopping them. The only injury is the only thing that's stopping him. Boise State probably should have won this. There was a really questionable call where the Oregon player ran the ball back and he dropped the ball before he got into the end zone, and they reviewed it, and then it was 5-second review, and they immediately said, no, it's good. And then, but the player was recovered by a teammate in the end zone. There was a couple really questionable calls that went against Boise State where you're kind of Oregon finally got the monkey off its back. They beat Boise State. They were 0-3 against Boise State before this. They finally beat them. Boise State looked like they belonged on the field, which is weird because they're a group of 5 school. But Oregon, it's hard to explain it without watching the game. But Boise State looked like they had a similar caliber of athlete to Oregon. They matched up well. They blocked. They. The only place where they didn't look is Dylan Gabriel looked much better than Boise State's quarterback. But other than that, I don't know. So I'm high on Boise State. I really like them.
We got about 10 minutes left, so let's got to hit some highlights here. Let's talk about some of our favorite schools.
Okay. All right.
Did you watch the Florida game?
I did not watch any of the Florida game. There was too much going on.
Okay. I got this one because I was really excited to see DJ Lagway. Obviously, they were playing Samford. Hold on. We got a question in the chat here. That Oregon Force, you think they'll have any chance of beating Ohio State, or will they just get destroyed? Jake, I'll let you take that one.
Yeah, I do think they have a chance against Ohio State because, I mean, look, Dylan Gabriel was fantastic. And also Tez Johnson, their wide receiver, he ran a touchdown return back and almost another one. He's also fantastic. Oregon played well and they won the game. It's not like Oregon played badly. It's just Boise State also played really well. I think Oregon is probably going to lose, and I don't think they're as good as people thought of them going into the season. But do they still have a chance to beat Ohio State? It's at home for Oregon, or Autzen Stadium is very loud.
If they get healthy, I think they got a chance. They got to get healthy.
They got to get healthy, and because I think they have 2 offensive linemen that are injured.
Yeah, they've got a bunch of people that are banged up right now. But that game's still, October 12th?
Yeah.
They got some time.
I do think Oregon has a chance against Ohio State for sure. And again, it's Ohio State, we really haven't seen tested against anybody good. So we assume they're really good, but
yeah,
and they handled business. So, but again, it's different when it just ask any of the teams that played a group of 5 team today. It doesn't always go the way you think.
That's right. All right, let's roll through some other games real quickly. Florida, DJ Lagway gets his first start. Playing Samford, you expect them to win them pretty easily. They did. But what's more important was DJ looked really good. He made some throws that not a lot of quarterbacks can make. Some deep passes, really put things in. I'll say threw some dimes out there. Looks like the real deal. Now, what do you do if you're Billy Napier?
Can they keep him?
Well, I don't know. I mean, Mertz theoretically is going to be ready for next week. So I think that's going to be fun to watch this week. Do you go with Mertz? Do you go Lagway? What decision do you make? Fan base, talking to somebody who was at the game yesterday, fan base responded to Lagway. So this is going to be fascinating to watch what happens. But clearly, they think they got the quarterback future. but you're not going to have a future with Napier. You don't play the kid, and you want to keep that kid there. You do not want him going somewhere else. So, pretty big debut in the Swamp. Obviously, I had my eyes on Virginia, Wake Forest, just from a personal perspective. Nobody's paying attention to Virginia, and I'm not saying Virginia's going to win 7 or 8 games, but they got a quarterback that can ball, in Anthony Calandria. He can make some plays. He keeps them in game. They were down 30-17 in the fourth quarter. He brought them back. The defense is playing better. That team is not going to be a pushover. Even though I don't like Tony Elliott as a coach, Calandria was the right choice at quarterback, and he makes some plays. I thought that was a fun game to watch.
I agree. I had it on the side screen. I agree with that.
Yeah. You want to touch on your Baylor Bears?
Yeah. Yes, you can see I'm wearing a Baylor basketball shirt because it's almost basketball. Dave Aranda's gone. He's gone. The vibe of the Baylor fan base is we kind of, and I know it's Utah. Let me touch on Utah really quick. Utah with Cam Rising is a top 10 team. They look like a top 10 team with Cam Rising. They are a playoff contender, legit. They have big dudes everywhere. They have speed and strength, and Cam Rising can run that offense.
Can't stay healthy.
If he can stay healthy, they are a top 10 team for sure.
Up in this game.
But the problem is he can't stay healthy. That's the issue. Baylor only had a chance once he went out, and they couldn't move the ball on offense at all. Baylor's defense just once Rising went out, they looked okay, but with Rising in, they were just getting diced up. It was just not even competitive. On the offensive side, Daquan Finn can't throw the ball at all. He is not he's just not a good thrower of the ball, and he doesn't seem like they don't seem to be able to run the read option as well as they want to if there's no passing threat on the RPO. I think Baylor's in for a rough year. I kind of don't see them getting to 6 wins, and it would not surprise me if Dave Aranda's gone by the end of October. They could also leave with fire him after the season, but they might just wait till whenever. We don't know the contract details because it's a private school, so they might wait until whenever the contract buyout decreases. But I think this is his last year, despite the success he's had on the recruiting trail recently. I want to touch on real quick. Clemson obliterated App State. They were exercising some demons.
App State the point. Give me a break. That was terrible.
The point.
What's that? Oh, you're an idiot.
It's fine.
It was 30-0 after the first quarter.
I didn't actually bet them. I used a little bonus bet money on App State points. I didn't put any real money on them. I will say though, I went for real money. The picks I tweeted out, I went 3-1 for the weekend, which brings me up to the season. I am now 5-6 for the season, so we're closing in on even.
I didn't give you my picks because I couldn't. We were off this. We couldn't do the podcast. So I didn't give you my picks. My picks for the week were pretty good. So I had Tennessee minus the points. I had Utah minus the points. I didn't tell you that, Jake. I took Utah.
All right.
And I took Clemson minus the points. The only one that I didn't, and I took Texas minus points. I would have taken Texas. I thought that was the most ridiculous line of the week. Texas minus 7. I would have taken Texas for a lot more points than that.
Okay.
I think Nacho Man here in our chat had him for minus 20.5. He was really, that last touchdown really killed him at the end because he got 19. But he got the alt line there. One I really missed on was Auburn. I thought that one maybe I went with my heart, but that was stupid. So
yeah. So I had Nebraska minus 7. Yeah. I had Boise State plus 21. Both of those cashed easily. I had Tennessee minus 10, or I think I got it at 10. And I had the Iowa. I had the Iowa over. I did take that was the only one. I had Iowa minus 2.5. So that one didn't hit.
I had crazy odds for that's the 20.5. I had crazy odds.
That'll teach you to mess with alt spreads.
Wild spread. And he had it too until 2 minutes to go in the game, and they scored that cheap touchdown at the end.
That's how they get you.
All right, we're closing in here in an hour. I mean, there's still other games we could probably talk about, but there's
a couple games. Pitt Cincy was a good game. I think Pitt is actually not quite as bad as we thought going into this season. South Carolina, Kentucky, don't be reading into that game. Kentucky is awful, and so is South Carolina. South Carolina is just slightly less awful.
Yeah, I think so too.
So Carolina fans, don't get your hopes up for that.
They'll get
Michigan State, Maryland. I know got some Maryland fans that watch the show. So that's a tough one. Sorry about that. Aiden Childs got a lot of talent. He's really, and then sometimes he just makes bonehead throws. He's a little bit like a more talented and less unhinged Anthony Calandria. And Michigan State, if they keep him around, I think they could really build on something for the future there. Besides that, it was kind of a crazy weekend. There's even more games we could talk about if we really wanted to. But boy, that's the kind of weekend that makes you love college football, and that's the reason why it's the best sport. Absolutely.
So we'll do this. We're going to do a week 3 preview this week. I think maybe it'll be Wednesday night, maybe I don't know.
Wednesday or Thursday?
And I'll kind of figure that out. One of those two should work out.
I'll post it on the Instagram.
Yeah,
so
we'll post it on.
Make sure you're following on there.
We definitely should be back to our normal pattern of doing a week preview, either Wednesday nights or Thursday nights. Just depends on our working schedule, since this is not our job, so we have other life commitments that comes the way. And then we'll do a reaction show again, probably, I think next week, probably again next Sunday. Probably.
Yeah, okay.
So anyway, thank you, Nacho Man 57, for joining us. Thank you for being in the chat. We'd always like to have some guests on there. And for those of you who are watching recording, we hope you're enjoying it. Have a good week. Listen, we had 2 weeks college football. We only got 11 more regular season weeks to go. Enjoy while you have it.
Yep. And hey, if you want to be a guest on the show, hit me up and we can invite you on to talk about whatever team you want. So just DM me on Instagram if you want to be a guest. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow, and do all the things. We're on Spotify, Twitch, YouTube, Instagram. We're on everywhere except Apple Podcasts because Apple's annoying. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye.